So, Trump White House counsel Pat Cipollone and his deputy, Patrick Philbin, were both interviewed by the FBI about the location of those classified documents at the ex-president's Florida home. That's as part of the investigation that led to last week's execution of a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. Right now, Cipollone and Philbin, seen there during that first impeachment trial, are the two most senior officials that we know of to be interviewed as part of this investigation. Last year, when Trump left office, both men acted as liaisons between Trump and the National Archives. And as the New York Times reports, quote, Philbin tried to help the National Archives retrieve the material, but the former president repeatedly resisted entreaties from his advisors. It's not theirs, it's mine, several advisors say Trump told them. We still don't know what exactly those documents are, especially the ones labeled top secret, the ones that have some of the highest classification. That could change this week, however. On Thursday, a federal judge will hear arguments to unseal the affidavit that preceded the search warrant, which lays out exactly what documents the Department of Justice was looking for. Now, we should say the Department of Justice opposes making that document public. They argue it would undermine their current and ongoing investigation, writing in a court filing, quote, if disclosed, the affidavit would serve as a roadmap to the government's ongoing investigation, providing specific details about its direction and likely course in a manner that is highly likely to compromise future investigative steps. Adding, this investigation implicates highly classified materials. George Conway is a prominent conservative lawyer, former Republican, and he joins me now. Nice to see you here in person.
Nice to be here.
So what do you make of the significance of the fact that the FBI interviewed these two former White House lawyers prior to the execution of the search warrant?
Oh, it doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, it's clear that they interviewed basically everybody who had something to do with these documents, and they had a substantial basis laid out in the affidavit that Donald Trump isn't going to get to see for the search warrant. So it doesn't surprise me at all. And what is interesting about it is it's very incriminating. Or the story is very incriminating of Donald Trump. He was told, you have to give this stuff back, and he wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the specificity of all this. It's the repeated attempts to get it. It's
Absolutely.
The liaisons for the lawyers that makes it, because you can imagine a defense being like, clerical error, right?
I was busy with a coup.
Right, right, exactly, which he's been trying to argue.
Right.
But to lay the groundwork in this way, including this attestation, apparently, that two of his lawyers signed, telling the FBI that they had
he would not be in criminal jeopardy at all, a former president of the United States, if when he was first contacted by the National Archives, he said, come on down. Search the place.
Yeah,
take anything you want. Just let me know what it is. And hopefully I'll get it back from my library someday. And I look forward to working with you for my presidential library. And that's what a normal president who made a mistake would do. Right. And that's not Donald Trump.
Well, and it's also the case that quote there brings into the willfulness of it, right? I mean, the motive to me remains, I have to say, somewhat obscure. I mean, we just don't know what it is. You don't think it?
The motive is he's 5 years old. These are my toys. He's a narcissist. He wants to have this stuff because it's cool to have this stuff. He wants to be able to show it off. He believes he owns everything. He owns the generals across the river. They're my river. Right. I mean, my generals. Right. Everything's his. He's 5 years old.
Right. And so what do you think about this? So you've got, we now know that they've talked to Philbin and Cipollone, right? Who have also been subpoenaed by the grand jury.
Right.
You've got this filing now on Thursday. The judge is going to hear arguments. Right. You said he's not going to see the.
But I actually want to get you on we have some breaking news just now. Vice President Mike Pence at the Politics and Eggs breakfast in Manchester, New Hampshire, which noteworthy enough that he's going to New Hampshire, which is a stop for potential presidential candidates. He just said that he would consider testifying before the January 6th House committee. He was asked if he would do it, and his quote, I will quote him here, his response was, if there was an invitation to participate, I would consider it. And this would be, we know as members of his staff have talked to the committee. Pence previously had said he would not do so. And now, as he's potentially eyeing the White House himself, he's signaling an openness to do so, which would be a significant step for the committee. Ken, what do you think he would be able to tell them?
Oh, Jonathan, I mean, first of all, he was there at the Capitol that day. He would be able to paint in vivid detail what he believes was an attack on our democracy. But then secondly, he'll be able to talk about all the steps that he took that day to try to bring in security and get the National Guard in. And he was making all the calls. He was the one, not President Trump, who was engaged in trying to get law enforcement to stop this attack. And he would be able to say why he was doing that and why the president wasn't. Look, I think this was a huge development because if you read his other remarks, he's trying to straddle the line. He's criticizing the search and saying that the attorney general should justify what happened, but he's also denouncing attacks on the FBI and denouncing Republicans who say defund the FBI. On January 6th, he's not going full Liz Cheney, but he's basically saying this was a horrible day for our democracy. And while I'm still a Republican, and he still seems to be supporting President Trump in some fashion, former President Trump, he's also saying he's willing to come and testify about the bad things that he saw that day, which could be incredibly incriminating to Trump, guys.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether he follows through or not.
Wow.
He has been, as you say, trying to have it both ways. But if he does, this would be a bombshell. Ken, one.
Well, Donald Trump has confessed to the crime of illegal possession of government documents and presidential documents. If reporting tonight in the New York Times is true, it's not theirs, it's mine. Several advisors say Mr. Trump told them. That line in Maggie Haberman's New York Times report tonight is a confession. That is a confession by Donald Trump that he knew he had the documents and had no intention of ever returning the documents to their rightful owner, the United States government. The sentence, it's not theirs, it's mine, contains all of the elements that federal prosecutors would need to prove the crime of illegal possession of those documents. That quote was reported in Maggie Haberman's article that broke the news that Trump's White House counsel and deputy White House counsel have been interviewed by the FBI about the boxes of government documents at Donald Trump's Florida home that the FBI found in their search warrant. The Times reports Pat A. Cipollone and Patrick F. Philbin, the White House counsel and his deputy under President Donald J. Trump, were interviewed by the FBI in connection with boxes of sensitive documents that were stored at Mr. Trump's residence in Florida after he left office. Three people familiar with the matter said. Mr. Philbin was interviewed in the spring. It was unclear when Mr. Cipollone was interviewed. That means that Attorney General Merrick Garland definitely had the information from the FBI's interview with Patrick Philbin, which was conducted in the spring, while the Attorney General was considering whether to seek a search warrant for Donald Trump's Florida home. The Wall Street Journal reports Attorney General Merrick Garland deliberated for weeks over whether to approve the application for a warrant to search former President Donald Trump's Florida home. People familiar with the matter said the decision had been the subject of weeks of meetings between senior Justice Department and FBI officials. Now that we know that Deputy White House counsel Patrick Philbin definitely spoke with the FBI during that period when Merrick Garland was considering a search warrant, and that White House counsel Pat Cipollone might also have spoken to the FBI during that same period, it strengthens our understanding of why Attorney General Merrick Garland appeared so very confident when he said last week that the decision to seek the search warrant from a judge was made by him.
First, I personally approved the decision to seek a search warrant in this matter. Second, the department does not take such a decision lightly.
Every outgoing president appoints people to be his representatives in dealing with the National Archives to make sure that all presidential papers are properly in the possession of the National Archives. Pat Cipollone and Patrick Philbin are two of the people who Donald Trump officially put in charge of dealing with the National Archives. When the National Archives realized that they didn't have all of the material from Donald Trump that they should have, the New York Times reports that the archives contacted Patrick Philbin. The Times reports Mr. Philbin tried to help the National Archives retrieve the material